This is potentially a career-altering bout. One of them may never return to their former glory the moment they step outside that octagon on January 18th. Here's why that matters. What's going on? It's Noah here with Youngblood MMA. The bout between Yuri Prochazka and Jamal Hill, it's right around the corner, and I'm waiting in anticipation to see what unfolds in the events thereafter. And this isn't just any matchup, by the way. This is a matchup between two former champions, one who have never defended their belt, and two who are still in their prime. Yuri at 32 years old and Jamal Hill at 33. Let's take a look at their record here. You have Yuri Prochazka. He's got 30 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw in his professional record. And Jamal Hill, wow, that is a really unflattering picture of Jamal Hill on ESPN. Looks like he just woke up from his sweet dreams, and he's sitting with 12 wins and 2 losses. We first saw these two face off for the first time at UFC 285, Jones versus Cyril Gane, and the context has now shifted. This was actually supposed to be a fight between the two best light heavyweights at that period in time, post the Jon Jones title reign, in search of the next true champion of the division. Now we're potentially looking at a career-altering bout, so it's going to be really nerve-wracking to see who's going to make it out of the cage with some degree of aura. Let's take a look briefly at Yuri Prochazka's history in the MMA. He was on a very significant run here in Ryzen and the GCF before debuting against Volkan Ozdemir in 2020. Yuri's next fight was a year later. He highlight reel KO'd Dominic Reyes, and that supposedly earns you a title shot at the belt after 2 bouts in the UFC. Overall, you got Yuri. He's got 6 fights in the UFC to this day. He's got a few notable wins with contenders. He narrowly defeated Glover Teixeira, who is a champion, somehow pulled off a rear naked choke, with 30 seconds left in round 5. But he ended up vacating the belt, and, it was either that or because the UFC was trying to pressure the guy to fight injured, but that would be like at the expense of him getting Dillashaw. Those of you unfamiliar, UFC 280, TJ Dillashaw fought Aljamain Sterling with an injury, and then he got knocked out in the second round. So let's move on. Let's talk about Jamal Hill for a moment. He entered the UFC from a big win in the Contender Series in 2019. He climbed up the rankings, and he won the vacant title against Glover Teixeira. These guys, they had a lot of hype behind them up until they got served eviction notices from Alex Pereira, getting violently finished. And between the two fighters, there's only one seat at the table in this matchup, which is terrible. I would have loved to see this matchup, but I don't think this was the right time to make this matchup. Despite me, I am excited to see the turnout of this fight. But they're both making huge sacrifices here. They're taking an even larger risk just by stepping in to fight one another at this point in time. The unfortunate reality here is, I think one of these fighters, they might not return to their former glory the moment they step outside the octagon on January 18th. That's a huge deal. At the end of the day, Yuri, he's got a very high chance of a career-ending knockout. He's too small for heavyweight, so he can't go up. He's probably going to be too vulnerable for middleweight. If we're talking about like weight cuts and being chinny, I think that's too much of a stretch for Yuri at this point. If he sustains too much damage, it's going to be near impossible to sustain a career in fighting. My other concern is with Yuri's losses to Pereira. I think it's going to affect his confidence against the likes of Jamal Hill. So we're going to see if Yuri's willing to assert himself and assume potential risk, which is the best Prochazka, in order to retain his glory days. On the other hand, there's Jamal Hill. He's in a massive aura deficit right now. He's been receiving a ton of backlash from his poor sportsmanship, ranting on his YouTube channel, ranting on Twitter, getting trolled to pieces on Instagram, and burning bridges with his fan base. So he's still been out and about, poisoning his brand, embarrassing himself, just complaining still about his loss to Alex Pereira at UFC 300. I think if Jamal Hill loses this fight, I'm afraid he's going to continue to lose whatever respect he's got left. And I've been looking at the rankings, trying to figure out who I'd match these guys up with if they hypothetically lost. Jamal Hill, he can still be matched up with Rakic. He can be matched up with Roundtree in a loss scenario. And perhaps he can salvage his career by choosing to be the heel of the light heavyweight division, or maybe he goes the other way, takes a humble route, cleans things up with his fans. But it is daunting to think that the only fighters I would match Yuri with are either ranked between number 10 and 15 in light heavyweight. I think he'd have to probably go down to middleweight. And maybe we can see him fight a top 5 guy. I think that'd be very entertaining. It would make for a great draw. Maybe if this does play out, we can see Yuri versus Rob Whittaker. We could see Yuri versus Jared Cannonier if Jared wins against Rodriguez. A little too soon to say. But look, even Sean Strickland got Paulo Costa after his loss to DDP. I think it's important to consider the worst case scenario. And the reason is because this is a way that the UFC can retain the draw power and career potentials of fighters like Yuri Prochazka and Jamal Hill, who both deserve the respect and may have potential future successes. So this just feels like they are going to take a shot at killing one of these guys off, ruining their star power at the expense of building up a massive card like UFC 311. Depending on how this video goes, I'll probably keep this as a series here on the channel. But I think it's important. We can always talk about the sunshine and rainbows of UFC, but I think we need to be having these hard conversations, and I think it's going to improve the sport, especially if we value the careers of these people who are working hard, just like anybody else would be clocking in and out of a career that's important to them, that they've sacrificed their life for. It's their livelihood. We need to be talking about this and having these conversations. That's the video for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I upload. I'll see you guys on the next video. Stay tuned.